Welcome back for the second part of what we're going to be working on this week. So we're going to continue with the exercise with the contact information database. So we've now learned how to add information to it. Now we're going to work with some different ways of how we can display that data instead of just in the table format. So here I am in Text Wrangler. You might be in Dreamweaver. This is the document that we just finished working on in the previous video. We don't actually need this anymore. What we do need to do though is open up our file from Lab 9 again. So go back to Lab 9 and go find that file because we're going to start with that again. And instead I'm going to do a file save as and make sure it goes into my class 11 stuff. So I'm going to go to actually it's not my lab, it's going to go into my exercise. So you can see there's my contact info and that DB Connect. And I'm just going to call this index. So it's going to serve as my home page for this little exercise folder. So let's just hit save. And here we are. And this is going to just display that table, right? So if we just uploaded that, all it would do is display our table. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to go out to my FileZilla. I'm going to refresh this. So there's that index. I'm going to upload it and it's uploaded. Let's go out to the browser. And now we are just in the root of this exercise folder. And there is the table. Well, that's awfully boring. There's got to be other ways that we can do this. We don't have to just loop through tables. So let's look at some other things that we can do. Okay, I'm back here in this index file, and we don't want any of this table stuff anymore. So I'm just going to get rid of these first few things. And we'll leave it within, this is outside of the PHP, so I'm just going to leave that. We still want to keep our while loop because we're still going to loop through that. We're just not going to loop through it with a table row. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to format this maybe a little bit more like something you might see. This one's not going to have any style or pizzazz to it, but we are going to get rid of some of this stuff. So in the first one, I'm going to change that TR to an H1. And that H1 is going to, let's see, it's going to display the first and last name. So I'm going to kind of do some little cleaning up here with this table. So I've got this. I'm just going to delete out the semicolon in this next echo line and bring this right up here. So it's going to say H1, new row, first name. And then I'm going to get rid of this TD. And this TD. All right, if we were to leave it just like this, we would end up with these two words squished together. So we actually need to concatenate this. So I'm going to put right after first name, we're going to put a period and some quotes and a space and some more quotes and another period. So this little space will serve as the space between our first and last name. And then at the end of this, instead of a TD, we are going to do an H1 so that just completely opens and closes that line. Then next up, right underneath it, we are going to do a paragraph. And actually, I'm going to keep this all in the same echo. So I'm going to get rid of a bunch of this stuff. And I'm going to tab that over a little bit. And again, instead of a TD, we're just going to make this a paragraph that's going to display the email. So we're going to do paragraph, and then we're going to show our email, and then we're going to close that paragraph. And then, because otherwise all this is going to do is just keep showing this text over and over and over again, I want to actually put an HR here instead of the closing for the row. So we're just going to put an HR in that spot. And again, I don't need it to echo again. So be sure when you're doing this that you're doing some cleanup. So I'm going to make sure that these things go away. So now if we were to look at this all on one line, we would have our opening quotes here. Then we close our quotes here so that we can open up this particular variable. Then we reopen it, put a space that would display, close it again, reopen it. It goes all the way to the H1, and we repeat this. So now if we display this, it's going to show first name, last name, and email with an HR dividing each of those. So let's go ahead and save this. And actually, before we do that, I just realized I still have my closing table here. We need to get rid of that. So I'm going to get rid of that as well. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to go and upload it. So I'm going to re-upload. And just to show it's here, I'm going to refresh over here. And there's our index. Okay, let's go back out to the browser. And instead of this table, let's refresh. There we have our names as an H1 followed by the email address followed by this HR, this horizontal rule. So this is a different way that we can show this, but what if we want to add some images? Think about when you go to an e-commerce site and you're seeing all these lists of products. They all have images. There is a way of actually uploading images to our web server. Images cannot be stored in the database, but there are ways that you can actually upload the image to the web server through an online interface, but we're not going to cover that. That's going to go outside of the scope of this class. So what we're going to have to do is manually enter some stuff. And let's go do that now, and then I'll show you how we can actually use some variables and include that over here so we can make this look a little bit prettier. So let's go to our database. I have that here, and I'm actually going to close out of this one. And we're going to go into, this is still our contact info, but I need to get the one with the wrench. And we're going to go into that. And I have to add another column. So this one, I am just going to call it profile pic, because that's kind of what we're going to do. It's just like if this were your profile picture. And because I know it's going to be storing basically abbreviated web addresses, I'm going to give myself plenty of characters to work with instead of 45. So I'm going to give myself a couple hundred. That's a lot. We shouldn't need all of those, but just in case. And I'm going to put in here that it can be null. Other than that, that's all I'm going to add. So I'm going to apply, and so it's saying alter it, apply, and it's successful. Close that. And now if I were to go into contact info with the little lightning bolt next to it, there's a new column right here. And I'm just going to widen this out because we're going to add some relative URLs. Just like if we were to put this in a website. You could put the full URL in here as well. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's the way WordPress does it, is it inputs the full URL. But what I've done here is I've actually created an images folder. So let's go out to our Finder, go into class 11, and I have these available for you to grab there in a zipped file so you can use them. So I have some set up, not for the newest ones that we just added in the video, but I do have them set up for Bilbo, Gandalf, Gollum, myself. So please add your own. Please just don't pick my picture. And then for Samwise as well. So I'm just going to take this images folder and move it into my exercises folder where we're actually working. So to get to this, our web address, the relative URL from this index page is going to be images / the file name. And that's what we are going to be adding within our database. I'm just going to start with me. I'm right at the top of the list. So it would be images / and I named these really easy, just a first and last name. They're all JPEGs. So I'm just going to go in and do that for each of these. So let's see, this is Bilbo. And Gollum, his is really easy because he doesn't have a last name. One I have. So let's see. Oops, images. Oh, and I see an error right here. It's images. Got to make sure you spell it right or it's not going to show up right. Images. Let's see. Gandalf-gray.jpg. If you are looking to set up your own images for anything else that you might add in, or if you have different names in here, they were 100 pixels by 100 pixels at 72 dpi. It's completely up to you what you want to do, but these are the images that I've got. So if you're using this content, this should work just fine. Don't forget to click apply. So it's going to tell us to update, and it's telling us these are just like the statements that we've been typing up in our PHP. So it's telling us to update the Isaacson database contact info table set by adding profile pic and then adding this information where contact ID equals. So I'm just going to apply, and it was successful, so we're just going to close. So these images are in here, so we're going to leave that be. Now we need to go update some information in our actual PHP file. So I'm going to go back to my text wrangler file, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to select it out of here. So in addition to first name, last name, email, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to put profile _ pic, if I spell it correctly. Otherwise it's not going to work. From, and then the rest is from the contact info table. So that hasn't changed. So we just added that additional column in here that it's going to pull from. So now I just need to scroll down, and I want to add an image in here. So I don't want it to be just the first name and last name. I want it to pull an image as well. So what I'm going to do, because I want it to be just like if it were a paragraph and you'd want your image right inside it, I'm going to go open up image, src, equals. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because of the concatenation. So again, let's just look at it without the concatenation. I'm going to get some spaces in here so we can see what's going on. It would just be the single quote, and it would be our $new underscore row, square bracket, profile pic, because that's what I named my column. And let's see, square bracket. And that's what we would put within that. And it's going to pull it up. And then we need our other little single quote. And we can go and close up our image file. But we need to concatenate that stuff so that it shows up. So I'm going to put that in, and we need to put right after the little single quote, because we want that to display. And so anything that falls between these quotes, that's what's going to display. So then I'm going to put the double quote and a period, and we're going to do the same thing on the other end. We're going to put a period and a double quote. Now, whatever shows up here is what's going to be in there. But remember, I also encourage to always use alt tags, because alt tags help with the visually impaired, and it helps improve search engine optimization. So what we're going to do is right after this, I'm going to put a space, and we're going to do alt equals, and again, we're just going to do the singles so you can understand what's going to go in here. I want to actually just take this information because that's what I want it to show up. So I'm going to copy this because I want the alt tag to show the first and last name of whoever the picture is. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it right in here. And then I'm going to put my single quote back there. So what's going to happen is we're going to get first name space last name. And then it's going to close up our image tag. And then I'm just going to get rid of some of these spaces. And I am also going to go into my view text display and soft wrap so we can bring that around so it's easier to see. So first name, last name, closing up the image tag itself, but we're still within the H1. And now we're going to have the name show up. So that's going to be the H1. But I also know that I probably want to do this image, I want to align it left. So I'm just going to do an inline style. So I'm going to type the word style equals, I'm going to float left. I'm just, for right now, going to leave it exactly like this. So I'm just going to hit File, Save, and we're going to upload. So you're going to see what's going to happen because this profile pic that we're pulling, if you remember from our database, let's just pop back there real quick, says images / and then the name of the picture. So that's what it'll show up. The source will be. So let's save and upload. So we're at FileZilla. So the other thing that we need to do to make sure that this works, we need to make sure that our images folder is here. And I know that I happen to have mine right here. So I am going to upload those into my folder. So now the images are there, and I'm just going to make sure I'm in the right place, and I'm going to update this index.php. It's the file that we were just working on. So that's been updated. Let's go out to our browser. This is before I refresh. If you recall, it's just the H1, and then it has the email address. I am going to refresh this, and there are all of my images. They are floated left, but then look at where the HR goes. I actually want it in between the two. So I need to actually add a few more styles. You could do this with a separate external style sheet, but just because I have just a couple, I'm going to add them in here. So let's go back to our code. And so where I have float left, I need a little bit of margin here too. So I'm going to put some margin right. And we'll just do 14 pixels. We'll make that up. How about some margin bottom, just so that that HR isn't right up next to it. And I'm going to do a 10 pixel. These are kind of arbitrary, so you can put whatever you would like here. And then the other thing is I want this HR to clear that image. So within this, I'm going to do an inline style here as well. Single quotes, because I'm using double quotes for everything else. We're going to do clear both, and save. So that should take care of this presentation bit. So let's go take a look. Let's go upload. Let's re-upload that index.php. And let's go take a look at this. We're going to refresh. There we go. So now it's the image, the name, and the email. If we were to do a view page source, what we're going to see here is our image with the float left. Here is the source that we used with, let's go back. So right here, we did profile pic. So images, Chris Isaacson. That was this new row profile pic, and it's pulling the information from right here in our database. Let's go take a look at the next thing. There is the alt. Remember I said we're using the first and last name? So there it is. And it's just going to keep going. And then the rest don't have images. So they're just empty. So if we look at them and we scroll down, there's our alt text. Because it's within the H1, it's showing up large, so it looks like it's duplicated. But if we got an image, it would take that over. If we wanted to do email, we could actually do it very much the same way. So let's just take a quickie look at that. So let's go down here, and we want to make this so that it's actually clickable and just use these variables. So I'm going to go within my paragraph. I'm going to open up an A, href equals single quotes. Then we want this information right here. I'm going to copy that because remember it needs to display twice because once is what the href is and once is what will actually appear to be clickable. And then we'll put a single quote here and I'm going to close that href and then we need to concatenate that in, and on the back side I'm going to close that A. One more thing, I just remembered because this is a link for email and we need to mail to. So what I'm going to do is right in between this single quote and then the beginning of my concatenation is I'm going to type in the words mail to with the colon because that's what we need to get the full email address. So now I'm going to save. Let's go back and upload my index file. There it is. Let's go back out to this and refresh and notice that they are all linked. And if I click on it, it's going to go to that address, and I know that, let me just make this a little bit smaller, is that you can see it along the bottom where it says mail to isaacsonk at uwstout.edu, mail to bilbo at hobbiton.com, Sam, etc., etc. It's just going to keep going. So this is a different way that we can actually display our information, and so it's not always in tables. Hopefully this helped make a little sense as to how things get contained within this while loop and how we can show information and use pictures, because that will be part of the lab this week as well. That is it for the exercise. Good luck, and good luck on the lab for the week as well. Thank you.